Our phones are so easy to go, oh my gosh, I'm kind of like uncomfortable. Let me just bust this thing out and go like, oh, let me just distract myself away from that. But the system also builds patterns and learns. Every time I feel this feeling, we can just distract. We can just take this pathway instead. And that is halting and getting so many people just stuck because the stress of change is the catalyst for change itself. So we get the car and then we don't fill it up with the fuel necessary to move.
Welcome to Raw with Jay, the support we needed but never received.
Welcome to Raw with Jay. We have someone very special today, somebody that is over the other side of the world, and I'm going to start with a little story. So we're going to talk about emotions and feelings, and it's my thing, you know. I love feelings, I love emotions. It's just a language that I speak that a lot of people can't speak. And there was something going on with me and I wasn't doing the thing. I wasn't talking about the thing and it was challenging. And I had so much anxiety and I had so much, almost a panic attack. I had like 2 or 3 panic attacks because I wasn't doing the thing and I knew that I didn't do the thing. So on my Instagram, this man's post came up and it was like, you know, when you've got your boundaries and you've got the glass of water and the water's shaking and it's really hard. And his Instagram said, do the thing. And I was like, oh, I had to do the thing. So I did the thing. And as soon as I did the thing, all of my anxiety went. It went. And I was like, okay, I get it. I understand. So Dr. Chris Lee, welcome to Raw with Jay.
I'm all about it. Yeah. The guy, I think I'm that guy, not that guy, but the guy. I live a principle when it comes to self-regulation that mood follows action. And I think we've kind of been told a different narrative that action follows mood, that we need to feel a certain way in order to take action, but that's just not the way that our biology is set up. So I'm happy that we found each other. However, that did happen.
I know. And, you taught me to do the thing, so you're already teaching me. So thank you. It is so uncomfortable. And why do we find it so uncomfortable to have the uncomfortable conversations as humans? Because we need to. We know that we need to, and we avoid it.
Without a doubt. So by default, our nervous system does not like change. It wants familiarity. So psychology would call it a familiarity bias. I would kind of say, Hebb's law in the world of neuroscience, what fires together, wires together, and then our nervous system creates these priorities. So when we attempt to go change, our nervous system is kind of asking a couple different questions, right? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the change that we're attempting to create an incentive, or is it something that we should invest emotional energy into? And this kind of gets into the conversation of dopamine. Dopamine is not just a reward molecule. In fact, that's not a priority of what it does. It's a motivation, anticipation, and learning molecule. So when we go make change or we attempt to make that change, our nervous system is trying to reorganize and reorchestrate. And as our nervous system builds through experience, we create neuroplastic pathways, which is the brain's ability to change due to circumstance. So humans are one of the only creatures on this planet that can intentionally cultivate and curate environments that allow it to do that exact thing. But it doesn't mean that it's not met with prior resistance. So these old patterns that we're trying to change have so much familiarity that oftentimes they become unconscious and very easy for us to kind of slip into. And when it does come time to produce change, our nervous system sometimes identifies that as threat, as challenge, as dangerous. And realistically, the feeling of frustration that most of us experienced in the midst of change should be a key indicator that we're on the right path. But with all of that going on, your nervous system produces that friction and agitation because it wants to go back to the familiar. And depending on kind of what circumstances you did come from, there's 4 categories of self-regulation that I kind of bucket all this into: physical, mental, emotional, social. And depending on the context of the environment that you're producing or the state that you're trying to change, your nervous system is going to resist it and try to get back to the familiarity. So that feeling of friction and frustration, I hope people in the first couple minutes of our party here can recognize that that's a beneficial thing. It means that you're doing something likely in the right direction.
I want you to say that again. When it's fear or you feel anxiety, you're doing the right thing. Like, that is so important to really highlight.
It absolutely is. So I have a rule in my house and I have a rule with my clients. So I'm a dad. My daughter's 8 at the time of this recording. When we say fear, it is a quarter in the quarter jar. You have to name what that fear is. So if we have fear without intention, without categorization, it moves it quickly into uncertainty. Uncertainty is tricky and it's dangerous because no matter what, your brain is a meaning-making machine. It is going to take context and it's going to filter it into what this event, what this circumstance looks like. So in the midst of fear, the greatest thing that we can do is say, okay, I am afraid of, right? I'm afraid of this occurring. And what that does is it kind of helps us organize and orchestrate what we are actually afraid of. And then we can take more concrete action to validate what that experience is emotionally without complete suppression or cognitive dissonance, which is something that we experience a lot of. And then once we kind of get those feelings up and out of the way that are probably trying to stop us from taking that action, you're still going to take the action and have that feeling, but you're going to do it with the know-how, certainty, and confidence that the pattern is going to change. And I think that's where in this modern world, we run into the problem the most, is that it's so easy to identify that feeling and then numb ourselves to it. Distract, dissociate, whatever that thing may be. This modern world, I was going to show you my phone, but I don't even know where my phone is in this moment, which is the greatest problem I have. I never know where that thing is. But our phones are so easy to go, oh my gosh, I'm kind of like uncomfortable. Let me just bust this thing out and go like, oh, let me just distract myself away from that. But the system also builds patterns and learns. Every time I feel this feeling, we can just distract. We can just take this pathway instead. And that is halting and getting so many people just stuck because the stress of change is the catalyst for change itself. So we get the car and then we don't fill it up with the fuel necessary to move.
Oh, we're gonna put that on a little clip there. Like that is the catalyst for change, and I think that that's so important to say because it doesn't matter whether it's a work, whether it's family, friends, a relationship. It's really hard to have the uncomfortable conversations, and I hope that you being here is going to make it easier for people. Now, Chris, where did your journey start from? Like, why would you go into, why is this your why? Like what happened in your life, or where did it come from where you decided, this is the path that I want to take. I want to talk about vulnerability. I want to talk about emotions. I want to talk about feelings.
If you would ask me a decade ago, are you going to be like doing podcast and making social media content? I would just kind of laugh because the world's changed so much in 10 years, but this is not where I thought I would be. It's where I know now that like I'm supposed to be here. This is home. Whatever the heck it is that I am doing, building businesses and talking about feelings and emotions. This is very much home for me. It's very much what I love to do. And I got here through fire and brimstone, like so many of us do with life purpose and passion. It started by getting hit by a car. Started with a bang. Black SUV is what it was. Blew a stop sign when I was riding my bike back. Walked out of there in the midst of, the first year of my doctorate. And I was like, what the fuck was that? And like any good broke student, I went to Walmart, which is like our cheap grocery store, bought a $3 bottle of wine, some clearance aisle dark chocolate, and I was going to go home on a Friday night and watch pirated Netflix from my neighbor's Wi-Fi because like what else is there to do?
Which is what most people would do.
This, of course, is logical next solution, right? Because it was just all the money I had and I was, 20 and a half at the time. So like we're going to make it happen. And I was maybe a mile away from home when this car blew a stop sign and had a helmet on, but like things did not go well. So ended up in the hospital, internal lacerations, like bucket handle fracture, like just not great things. Got put on bed rest. And, the first couple of weeks of that, I started to experience depression and anxiety. And like, I was a healthy, fit young man and my body just started to wither and then my body started to hurt. And then my body really started to hurt once kind of all this tissues and everything started to like kind of grow back and things like that. And then life really changed. So 2 weeks into that, I got a phone call from a family friend. And this family friend I hadn't spoken to in a while and calls me and is just frantic on the phone. And for the sake of conversation, let's call him Steve. So Steve, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And he's like, do you still live here in Atlanta? And I'm like, yeah. Like, what do you want? Like, what's going on? He's like, I'm on my way to your house. I'll be there in 25 minutes. Call you, your brother. My brother was going through school with me at the time. Roommates, greatest thing ever. Still my best friend. Love you, Nick. And I call my brother up and I'm like, do you remember Steve? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, Steve's coming here. And like, I still can't get out of bed. And he's like, I'll be there. So my brother pulls up. Steve pulls up in our shitty, busted apartment because that's just what we could afford as broke doctorate students. And for some reason, I decided to try to get out of bed. and just like confront the danger. And I couldn't really do it. But I finally got myself up on the wall, and I stood there and I stood there and I stood there, and they didn't come up for like 15 minutes. And then I really started to get nervous. Like something was like big wrong, like something was wrong. And if you've ever had a moment in your life where you know it's never going to be the same, there is really a silence before the storm. And I can remember it. I can still to this day remember what that feeling of anticipation was like, of like, what are they doing? And like this like knot in my stomach started to grow, and I'm like, this isn't good. Like something's wrong. I don't know what it is. Something's bad. And eventually my brother comes up, and I can see him and I see Steve, and they're both sobbing. And my brother sees me, and he like drops his backpack, runs over to me, wraps his arms around me, my big brother, my hero. And he looks at me and he goes, "Dad's gone." And it was on that day, almost 10 years ago now, 9 years ago, that my dad committed suicide. And it was out of the blue. There was no letter. There, was not really a specific rhyme or reason. There was nothing left to help us answer any questions. He was going through a difficult period of time in his life, but it leaves a hole. It leaves a really big hole. And it's a hole that, I changed the entire trajectory of my life and career and went into the world of neuroscience to try to get answers for, only to realize that you don't get answers from that. You meet it with acceptance. You meet it with humility. You meet it with grief and crying and sadness. And that's what started this journey here. What catapulted me into this world and solidified it was 13 months to the day, almost, that my dad passed away. I was suddenly a dad. And it was not long after that I was a single dad in my early 20s trying to figure all of this out. And I by no means have it figured out today. The more I know, the less I understand, which is a quote I really like. But my daughter was born, and I did not want to pass on the burdens of what I hadn't integrated to her. I wanted her to have emotional freedom, to live and to be, and to have everything that, she could, to have a life that was for her. So I started to do a lot of this work, and it started off with therapy. And then I was like, all right, this just isn't for me. There's got to be a better way. And at the time I started studying neuroscience, and I was like, okay, so like this trauma, it lives inside of my body, but it's being perceived by my brain. What is this self-regulation thing that so many of these scientists are talking about that is going to help me integrate these experiences? And when I say the word integration and when I say the word self-regulation, those are two, kind of big terms to define. Self-regulation is your nervous system or your individual ability to go through experiences intentionally and responsibly, not reactively, which is, I think, something that we would all like to do. We could start to throw every buzzword around, like when I go through this genuinely and authentically and, whatever other, word that we need to go through. But it's to live life intentionally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then what the word integration really means is taking prior experiences and going back to them intentionally. It's allowing them to be seen, heard, loved, whatever you need to say, and giving them permission to be seen, heard, validated without judgment, without criticism. That's the part that's a bitch, because it's so easy to go back to those past patterns and go, oh my gosh, I was such a piece of shit, or I was such a dumbass, or I did hurt those people, or I did do those things wrong. And then we judge ourselves for trying to give ourselves permission to have those feelings, instead of just being able to hold space for the discomfort of that feeling to come back through. And that's what brought me to whatever this work is that I'm doing here today, which is hopefully trying to, build some science around how people can live more intentionally, more creatively, and on their own terms.
Thanks for sharing that. I know that wouldn't be easy to share even 10 years later. it certainly got my heart space, especially being a dad. You think your parents are Superman and Superwoman and things like that happen and you're like, oh, hang on a second, they're just trying to work this life out too.
Yeah.
And to have that experience with your daughter. I mean, I think kids are our greatest teachers. I'm a counsellor for children, and kids are our greatest teachers, and they will teach us more about ourselves than we could ever teach ourselves. And sometimes what we think at the time is something really hard ends up being our biggest blessing. So I just want to go back into that. When you're talking about holding space for yourself, what exactly do you mean there? Because there are people that say, you'll say, here, do the work or sit with your feelings or whatever that means. Like, how exactly do people do that?
For me, that has been a combination of different things. It has been a combination of finding the right therapy for me. So I really enjoy EMDR. That was really great for the trauma that I was experiencing, and then also facilitating that with parts work. So internal family systems has been also really fantastic. I'm not a facilitator, but I've been working with a therapist for probably the last 7 years now to help me better understand those different parts. I think therapy is a really important part of the puzzle, but I would say it's not anything more than probably 15%. The other 85 of it is what you do outside of therapy. It is making sure that you have the bandwidth for emotional regulation. It's making sure that you have the bandwidth for non-judgment and recognizing that if you're trying to change patterns, it's going to be more expensive to your system than anything else. So when we talk about holding space for yourself, one of those strategies for me has been understanding, am I a top-down or a bottom-up processor? So for me, I need to process verbally, which is why I have a really amazing group of friends. I have a really awesome relationship now, and that gives me this access to talk out loud about what's going on and not worry that those things are going to be judged or criticized. I have people in my life now that ask me really great questions, the same way that I try to do for a lot of my clients as well. So that would be top-down processing. It's helping you think into the feelings that you're having. Now, there's also times where you do bottom-up. Bottom-up processing is very much allowing yourself to do things like breath work, somatic practices, bilateral stimulation, and those practices are leveraging the body to get into the body and then allowing kind of this auto processing to occur in the mind. It's very much like a mindfulness practice that allows you to use the intelligence of the body to just kind of shortcut up into the brain and just allow what comes through. Now, I would love to say that I am a bottom-up processor. I would love to tell you that I can just sit and like everything just is, and I'm not. I'm just not. And it's not to say that that's wrong or right or bad or good. It's just the way that I am. And it took me a while to kind of like wrap my head around that because I studied so many of these different tools, all for it to come back to me and be like, you know what I'm actually really good at? I'm really good at compartmentalizing, intellectualizing, and then taking those different components and allowing them to process through my body in different practices, which very much can look to me like just sitting down and holding space for myself. I did it before we recorded. I sat down, I have a white chair right there, and I sat in that white chair and I just sat there for like 10 minutes and just kind of like let myself, because like, even though, you know, we're, I think up to a million followers across platforms and this and that, and I still struggle with imposter syndrome a ton. So I'm holding space to be like, you know, the fear of being found out or anything else along those lines. I'm just sitting there with that feeling and not letting it take action, not letting it control the narrative. I'm just allowing it to just exist and then trying to identify like what the feeling actually is, right? Is it just being seen? Do I not like the exposure of this thing? And then really starting to create a narrative that is supportive and is safe for that thing to come through, while also still showing up here and doing the thing with whatever those feelings are as well, to show that that feeling doesn't dictate my life. It is welcome in my life, but it doesn't dictate how I choose to live.
How beautiful. I mean, how beautiful. First of all, thank you for admitting the fact that you still find things hard. Because
Constantly.
sometimes when you see somebody in the spotlight, you're like, wow, they're so amazing, they're so wonderful. And they still have the same feelings that we all have. You just have the tools around it to be able to support.
100%.
I want to go back to something you said about your daughter, and it was that you wanted to release all the patterns and habits and things that have happened in your life so you don't pass them on to her. And I think that working with parents, I work with a lot of separated couples and things. I've separated myself. And, it's a really hard time for our kids as well. So could you explain some things that you do with your daughter, first of all, with yourself in moments of parenting? Because I know that that's very challenging at times. Our kids are our greatest teachers and our biggest triggers. And so what are some moments that you would do in a parenting realm and also with your daughter to be able to really connect you both together, or to realize that it's your own stuff coming up at times?
90% of it is your own stuff coming up. Kids don't care what you say. They just mirror what you do. So, and that's just the way that kids are. Kids are very much there to push the boundaries and push the envelope of like, okay, like what is socially acceptable in this situation? What am I supposed to be doing? So, I invested happily a ton of time and energy into how I wanted to be a parent at the start. I would set parenting goals, and I would, make sure that, it just made sense for me. And I'm intentionally being general in this, because how I parent my daughter is not how anybody else should parent their kid, because it's my kid.
Yes.
So there are some things in my life that, because I have always been a single parent, are just different. So it's always been her and I. And when it's been her and I also recognize in my own life that a lot of my patterns were just giving things that I didn't have. And then, oh, well, what am I supposed to do with that? Because there's nobody else here. There's nobody else that's going to come help. And it's like, oh, but I could. Like, I can build community around me. I can build supportive networks around me. I can do this. I can do that. And then it's kind of back to the drawing board. So one of those things that we have to talk about, though, is just emotionally regulated kids. There is such a thing, I believe, as it being okay for your kids to be mad at you and for you to be mad at your kids, because the foundation that they know that you still love them is very readily available. Now, in the midst of chaos and tantrum, your kids are going to say a lot of things to you. There's been periods of time where my daughter has, in emotional outbursts, said that, I don't think that you love me, and I don't think this, and I don't think that, and you're just super mad at me. And it's crushing, right? To have, the person that you are responsible for, and that is your kid, to like say some of those things. And at the same time, you have to have the cognitive fortitude to be like, okay, she's trying to navigate through this. So if she's emotionally reactive at this time, I just need to be safe for her to express. If I judge and say, that's dumb, that I'm not, that I love you, that. You're like, instead, be like, okay, I understand. I recognize that in this moment that you're feeling frustrated. You're probably, maybe you're feeling scared. What do you need right now? Do you need time alone? Do you need time together? Do you need time together alone? So when my daughter was 2, I started doing something called the Chair of Justice. And the Chair of Justice was kind of like our form of like timeout or consequences to actions. And it wasn't one chair, it was 2 chairs. So whenever we would do something,
that's so beautiful.
Because it's not like her mistakes were our mistakes as far as I saw it. And this is the same way that I go through romantic relationships. You don't make mistakes. We make mistakes in communication. And yes, are there things that you did over there? But yeah, I'm here to support you. So with my daughter, when something popped up or she became emotionally reactive, and then that emotional reactive behavior turned into an action that was not an okay action. One of those that I've talked about is we went to Target one day, and she wanted a unicorn umbrella. And in the car, I always set, expectations for what we're doing. We're going in here to get bed sheets, pencils, and mangoes, or whatever the heck the thing is. And that's the objective, right? We're not getting anything else. I don't incentivize good behavior with toys. That's just not something that I use in my life. I also need her to be really comfortable going out and getting groceries with me, because life, right? So she sees this unicorn umbrella and she's like,
Oh, I mean, it was so pretty.
it was
huh?
so pretty.
I mean,
It was pink. It was sparkly.
So pretty.
We lived in South Carolina. There's storms all the time. And she saw a couple of her friends with umbrellas and she's like, I need it. And I said, no, we're going to follow through with what we said we were going to do. It's not something that we are going to get today. And she just threw a fit. And I, in that moment, was like, okay, like people are watching because she's like pterodactyl screaming at 2 years old, right? Like she's like screaming in this. And I'm like, okay, I only have like 30 seconds to do this intentionally before like my bandwidth like completely dissipates. Like, how do I want to go through this? I'm like, okay, number one, I don't care what any of these people really think because realistically, why do I don't even know, they're strangers, right? And I'm like, but I can't incentivize this behavior. If I follow through and I like get the thing for her, she's just learned that when she screams, she gets the thing that I told her no to. So there's no consequence to this action. So I gave her the option. And then what I've done consistently from that time, I'm like, hey, we're not taking this. You're welcome to have these feelings. I can pick you up and take you out to the car and we can process this. Or if you would like to stay here, then okay, you can kind of stay here. During that period of time, I let her stay in Target. Knowing what I know now, I wouldn't do that. I would have taken her out of that environment. I would have left the grocery cart. I would have left all the things because it was literally like not crazy important stuff. It's not like we didn't have groceries in the fridge and we had to go get that. But for like 45 minutes, she just went after it. She just like screamed it out inside of Target. And she did that one time. Once. Never again did we go out because we reinforced that hey, we came in here with this protocol, with this expectation, with this standard. And afterwards, she's, red-eyed and like just super, super upset. And then we got home, we talked it through, sat in the chair of justice and said like, I just walked her through like, you seem really frustrated that we didn't get that. And she's 2, right? So like she's starting to collect some of her language, but it's not like a ton there. And she's like nodding along and I can see that the feelings are starting to come back up for her. So I was like, are the feelings coming back up? And she's like nodding her head and I can see like the tears are starting to come. And I held her in a different way for another 45 minutes while she just cried. Not cried angry, cried sad, cried safe. And when that was done and we sat back down, I walked her back through what happened, walked her through how I loved her, walked her through when we go into the store and we have this list, we're going to follow through with that list. Now, I totally see that you want that thing. Here's the next opportunity that we can probably get that. We have a birthday coming up. We have Christmas coming up. We have these events, but I don't incentivize with toys or things. So what we did is we planned and we prepared, and then we started to work in chores, which is just something that I think kids should also do. So she started to make her bed and put her toys away and help out with some of those like smaller things that kids do. And over like a 3-week period of time, she earned, whatever $25 it was to go get the umbrella. And after that chunk of time, she had the money and didn't want it anymore.
Oh, that's so beautiful,
yeah,
Chris. That is so beautiful. And I've actually had a very similar situation with my son when we separated. He had really big feelings. It has not been easy. And it was 6 years ago now. So we're through the hard end of it. But he went into a supermarket, wanted something. I was like, no. And I sat there for 45 minutes with him on the ground in a safe place in the supermarket where I was like, hey, I understand that you want that, but I'm right here with you. And he cried and he cried and he cried. And he just let out everything. And it wasn't about that thing. It wasn't about what he wanted at the supermarket. It was all the emotional baggage that he was holding on to that he needed to release. So holding that boundary that he pushed up against allowed him to release that. And at the end, I think he was maybe 7. He said to me, thanks, Mummy. Thank you. Because he felt everything move. And in this work, people think that your kids are perfect, that they don't have big feelings. It's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
They do, we just allow them to release those feelings and emotions from their body in a way that really can hold space for them in a different way to what I was the way that feelings were held for me when I was younger is I'd go to sugar. Then when went to alcohol when I was older, and partying and all of these other things, because I didn't allow them to come from my body. So I think that that's a really beautiful story for people to hear, because yeah, it's embarrassing when it happens in a supermarket, but there's underlying stuff that have happened before that.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And it's really hard. When you talk about friendships, because when I separated, and as I said, it was 6 years ago now, I found that people couldn't hold space for me. They were just like, whoa, this is too much. And I've grown up reading Brene Brown and vulnerability and shame and all of these things. So it's a very natural language for me to be open and raw. I'm very natural with it. But during times of trauma, when you're other people's holding space, they can't hold that space for you. And you say now that you've got a really connected group of friends, and, you know, they hear and they see and they validate you. And I think that that's really beautiful. But in life, not everyone can. And so what is your advice to people if they are surrounded by people that dismiss them, that invalidate them, and that don't allow them to express how you're speaking? Because you're talking about talkability as a way to get your feelings out. I'm the same. I have to talk about it. And so what is your advice to people if they're surrounded with friends and family and people that really can't hold that space for them?
Don't take advice from people who don't have what you want.
Yes.
That's a really big one. So my best friend, outside of my brother, like I've got these two amazing men in my life. So his name is Nathan Boggs, and he is affectionately known as the chicken farmer in our house because he runs an amazing chicken farm, happy chickens, like very happy chickens in South Carolina. And he and I met at a farmer's market because my daughter snuck underneath the table and he had chocolate milk, and like, you know, he and I just started to like, you know, shoot the shit. And then for the time that we were up there, my daughter would just help him push out eggs at the farmer's market, and I would sit in the back and just kind of talk with him. And it's been 6 years now that he and I have been friends, and we've talked every Wednesday at noon. And what I've recognized is that not everybody can hold that space. Not everybody has any inkling what holding space even means. And that I truly also believe that iron sharpens iron. And the older that I get, I just continue to cut people out that don't belong in my life, cut people out that don't support me or the choices and the decisions, or they're judgmental or they're self-critical. Because like I am a wildly imperfect person. Wildly. Like I'm trying my best. And like, that's another one of my, you know, core beliefs is that I think all people are doing their best at all times with the information, knowledge, and bandwidth that they have, me included. When people try to fix you instead of holding space, instead of asking questions, for me, that has been the red flag. So unless it's invited into my life, I don't know about you on social media, but I got people all day dropping me messages about how I can be a better version of me. Like, stellar.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for
so
that.
much.
And, you know,
Oh, lovely.
every, you know, friend of mine from high school and, you know, college and things like that, you know, if we haven't caught up in a couple of years and they see what I'm doing now, everyone's got advice. And I just respectively, I've cut so many people out. And with family and things like that, I have the most amazing mom, and she's the most extraordinary grandma. Like, she's just like amazing in every way, shape, or form. And I can talk very freely with her about like 99% of things. And then there's that chunk of things that I just don't. And you just have to know which people you can have conversations with. My brother, another great example of that. I talk business with him. He's wildly intelligent and just like an awesome human being too. And he's a dad too. And like, he's been in a marriage for a while and they've got a kid. And I'm like, you know, so we can talk about relationship stuff to a degree, but like how he does relationship is different than how I do single parenting relationship, because my partner also has kids. So like that dynamic is also like wild and crazy. So for 3 years that me and my partner have been together, we're trying to figure those things out too. So I'm a big proponent of cutting people out. Not like an asshole, not be like, hey, like, sorry, you're a bitch, like, get the fuck out of here. But like, just, you can either train people to treat you a certain way by the boundaries that you set and establish and say like, hey, how you're participating in that, I'm not a fan of. And I have no problem doing that, especially with certain people and with parenting and things like that. I'm just not afraid of that at this point. And it's not to be an a-hole. It's not to be an asshole. It's just to save time. Time is so precious, and I want to spend it with people who are excited, want to talk about ideas, don't want to talk about gossip, don't want to talk about bullshit. They want to talk about like, oh, wow, man, I read this really awesome book. I'm like, fuck yeah, tell me, what's that? What is that, right?
Yeah.
So people, we accept the love we think we deserve. And I use that as a litmus test too of like, cool, like this person wants to come into my life. Who's around them? Right? Like I'm saying this really respectfully, but are you hanging out with like degenerates? Like, are you, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory term. I just am somebody who doesn't drink, and it's not for any other reason and it serves no purpose in my life. It makes me no way, shape, or form a better person. I had a glass of wine sometime in November last year because we were making French onion soup. And I was like, honestly, I got this like $70 bottle of wine. This is about to be the best French onion soup ever. And I'm like, why not have a glass, right? And after that, I was like, I drank like 3 sips of it, and I was like, that was a really good bottle of wine. Like, I'm just like, it's not my thing, right? But if people do, it's like, okay, you just kind of like, you've respectfully cut yourself out because it's just not that thing for me. And I don't say that again, like I'm not trying to judge that person. We're not in the same bandwidth. Not that I'm better, not that you're worse. They're just different. They're not compatible. And you have to be okay with that too.
Yeah, that's definitely been part of my journey. I stopped drinking 10 years ago, so it's just not a thing that I do. And I lost a lot of friendships during that time, and I was like, why am I not getting invited? You know, I'm still the same person. And it was because I triggered something in them that they didn't want to look at. And it's taken me so many years to accept and understand that. But at the same point, they just weren't my people, you know. And I find this really challenging when it comes to humans, is that if I create a boundary, and we'll talk about boundaries in a second and why how important they are, but if I create a boundary and say, that's not working for me, I get attacked. Like, you should be better, you're a counsellor, you should do this, you work with children. And as soon as I kind of just say no, I had a friend once who she sat down at a restaurant at me and for 2 hours told me everything that was wrong with me. And I was crying my eyes out, crying. And she was like, I'm the gift to you. I'm the gift to you. I'm the gift. And I was like, what? And I had to just cut that person out because I tried to explain to her that was just not cool and that's not great behavior. And I think as you go through life, it's like your time is precious, especially when you're a dad. You want to spend time with your kids. Yeah. You don't want to spend time with all of these people. And it's hard to say, we're just not on the same page. I have other people in my life who just...
There's magic in that though.
Exactly. What is the magic? Let's talk about that.
It's respect and integrity. We don't match. Period. We gave this a run. We tried to go do it, and that's totally okay. Like, I very much had to learn that experience. I was single for 5-6 years inside of that, and then tried to go date, and it didn't go well, and then I moved to Florida. And, down here, I was like, on my last limb of trying to date before I'm like, all right, I just need to take another year off of this. I go on a random date here and there, and very much along the way, tried to make things work. But I also think that there's just a spark, and I don't think that the spark is going to last forever. And I don't want it to. I told my person, I'm like, I'm not expecting, a honeymoon phase to go last. I'm not going to be like that. I do want to, get to the part of life and relationships where we're bags under the eyes at 5 a.m. responding to emails and looking across the table and just smiling at each other, because that's still home. And I won't accept anything less than that. And for me, I just make sure that, the respect that I wish people would give back to me would be like, hey, I just don't think we have anything else to talk about. And I'm not gonna force a conversation. I'm not gonna try to make it happen. And I also very much all day, a part of my just life is I run a consulting and a coaching company. So I'm talking to businesses all day, and then I'm talking to people, individuals all day. And, I absolutely love what I do. And I also need rest from those things as well, because I just want to be home with my family. And that's the thing that really matters to me. So that's what I'm just making space for. And it's not because I don't love and appreciate and think that we couldn't eventually find something, but I just want to go home to my family a lot of the time.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think it's, when we can be vulnerable with people and when we can say the thing, when we can do the thing, sometimes it's not accepted, sometimes it's not responded to
nothing to
because
do with
that
you.
person doesn't have the capacity.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have anything to do with you, and that is okay.
That's the hardest part.
Now, one of the things that you talk about a lot is boundaries. Why do we need boundaries?
I think boundaries are really important because they reinforce what you are and are not willing to tolerate. So I think people mix up that conflict is dangerous. When conflict, me and my girlfriend, we have, I don't want to say combative, I don't think we've ever fought, which is an interesting and weird thing to say, but we have very open communication about, hey, this thing popped up and like, I don't want that event to occur again. It felt disrespectful. It felt like this. And I just am not a fan of how we participated collectively inside of that. So into the future, are you open to making change? And if you're not, that's totally okay. I'm just going to not engage in that way. Now, you want to find a person who both is open to hearing and having feedback, 2, has flexibility and a track record of change, and 3, recognizes when there is a time and place for them to change and a time and place where they need to stand still and stand their ground. Because there's been times where things have popped up for me and I've said that exact thing to her, and she's a strong woman. And she said, I don't think I am willing to change. Are you willing to hear what I'm recognizing? And I'm like, yeah. And then she'll say something back and I'll be like, oh man, I need to like pause this conversation for a second because you're absolutely right. This is like an emotional reaction. So, shit. And then like she's one of the only people on the face of this planet that can do that with me. And then I'm like, yeah, probably need to go like calibrate that. And then she'll make me licorice tea after the kids go to bed and she'll look at me and she'll go, let's program. And when that happens and we're sitting in bed, she will just sit there and help me better understand these ideas and why I brought it up and was it right or was it wrong or was it this or was it that? And my system, due to past experiences, has sometimes experienced that thing as danger. Yeah. And I know with her that it's not. So I am letting old experiences have new circumstances to produce new circumstances and experiences. And with a regulated person, doesn't mean that they're not going to hurt you, but they're going to pull up all the parts of you that are hurt so that they can heal. And that's kind of what the experience has been. But the boundaries are really important for people because you have to know what you are and are not willing to tolerate as well. And oftentimes, especially in business world, we have to stand strong in our convictions of like, no, this is what our company stands for. And no, I'm actually not willing at all in the slightest to move the needle on this thing. So here's kind of where I'm at. And this is about what I'm willing to do. Sound good? No? Okay. I'm not willing to negotiate. Thank you.
And often in a relationship, when you meet a person, like they will bring up every possible thing inside of you, just like a child that you need to work on. And you're like, whoa, this is uncomfortable. Now, I just want to, because I know we're running out of time, you talk about a morning and a nighttime routine and how important it is from a neuroscience perspective for us to be able to really start the day and finish the day. Could you tell us what you do? Because I love this. I have a morning and nighttime routine myself. Can you tell me what are your kind of habits and things that you do to be able to keep your nervous system quite calm?
First off, you have to be able to do it, and it needs to be based on time. So
yes,
for most people, I don't want anybody to sacrifice sleep. Sleep is the catalyst for a regulated life. I go to bed at like 8:39 every day. Then I'm up at 4:35 most days, typically with my person. And I'm up and writing a book and like moving slow. And right now, I usually don't wake up immediately and drink coffee, but I usually wake up and make her coffee. And then, she does some writing, I do some writing, I do some it's just the whole goal of my morning is slow. That's it. Low stimulation, slow. Don't bust out the phone.
So that means no phone.
No phone.
Like just
no phone.
no phone.
Low, slow stimulation is like the name of the game. Whether you need to read, whether you need to move your body. Sometimes I wake up and I go to the gym. For me, I'm not worried about changing my routine because I have behavioral flexibility that it's okay. Some like I said, I told you yesterday, like yesterday's Monday leg day. So woke up, went to the gym. And there's also days, because I homeschool my daughter, that there's days where I'm teacher. So I'm making curriculums and I'm planning and I'm strategizing and making sure that things are set up and stacked in right ways as well. So the start of the day sets the tone. The end of the day integrates where the tone was broken. So that end of the day integration for me is journaling, it's reading, it's licorice tea with my girlfriend in bed, and talking through how the day was. Now, this is not an Instagram 60-second reel. There's days, I would say 5 days out of the week, that's the consistent. The other 2 days, it's not. And I'm okay with that too. It is just a matter of maintaining consistency and intention with it, and recognizing that the intention of doing this routine is this. And the intention of doing this routine is this. And then whenever that intention needs to change, when the season changes, that you change it and you allow yourself to change. So in the summertime down here in Florida, when it gets hot and sunny, I love the sun. I'm not afraid of the sun. You don't even go do whatever you want with that. I love the heat. I love to sweat. So
Oh, I'm a lizard. I'm all for the sun. Just bring it on.
Yeah,
We're Australian.
So when the sun comes up in the summertime, I'm like down to sweat, go to the beach, paddleboard. And then when the sun is like hot, we get afternoon thunderstorms. So like we're inside, and then I cook too. So like I have my days and my schedules just set up in a way that I'm trying to not be in a chaotic rush all the time. I'm just trying to be here and try to be present. So when I do get derailed, which happens every single day, happened 4 times today, I'm like, oh, this thing's supposed to happen. Oh, that person canceled. This thing was supposed to happen. Okay, that canceled. Kids are homesick. Like whatever the thing is, I'm making sure that my system is recognizing that there's a pivot that needs to be made, and then asking what's priority, what's necessary, and then finding what that middle ground is of what I have the bandwidth to do.
Even coming here today, I was like, well, is he going to cancel? Is he going to turn up? I have this mantra that I say to myself, and the mantra is everything is always absolutely unfolding perfectly. Yeah. And it's just one of those things that, it just calms the nervous system. It's like, you know what? If it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. That's okay. Everything's okay. Yeah. And you talk about a Mediterranean diet. I've studied integrative nutrition. I'm all about health. I'm all about what we put into our body. And you do talk about a Mediterranean diet as well. So what we're putting into our body is just as important?
Yes. So physical, mental, emotional, social, physical, sleep, diet, exercise. So I move my body every single day. It's just a non-negotiable. I'm just a dude, so if I don't move my body, I go crazy. But food matters. Food matters a ton. And while I do have some ultra-processed food, my daughter's favorite snack is Flamin' Hot Cheetos. And she can have it like once a month, right? And like people know that that's her like favorite snack. So like when my mom comes to visit, she'll like go do grandma stuff and they go get Flamin' Hot Cheetos. But the rest of the time, it's eggs, it's yogurt, it's for me sardines and fish. It's like I'm eating as much non-processed food as humanly possible. Like for lunch today, I had, what did I have for lunch today? I had a cabbage and ground turkey salad, and then I had kibbeh, which is a Lebanese dish that me and my daughter made a couple days ago. We're having pot roast for dinner tonight. Like it's a very like, when people come over and eat with me, they're like, this is so basic. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh my gosh, but this food is so good. It's like grilled vegetables or baked and it's slow. Like my girlfriend, love her so much. She came over and bought banana bread over, and I'm like, thank God, you're awesome, right? Like,
we love your girlfriend, by the way. She sounds like the most incredible woman.
Oh, she's extraordinary. She's absolutely extraordinary. Yeah, we have such a cool dynamic. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not grateful for.
That's really beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. You just spoke about very briefly that you're writing a book.
Definitely trying to. So like I said, the imposter syndrome is screaming in my face. And
hey, Chris, can I just say that you're amazing? Like everything that you put up is amazing. You are helping so many lives all around the world. What you're doing is incredible. So please, every time that imposter syndrome comes up, just be like a little birdie on your shoulder going, you know what, I'm doing a pretty good thing here.
Yeah, Jay said. So if Jay said, it's got to be true.
It's true.
So thank you. I'm working on receiving compliments as well. It's a process for me. It's I went to a bookstore with my daughter the other day on Sunday, and I'm looking in there, and I got signed by like a big name, like a big publishing company. And And I'm like in the bookstore, like looking at books, and I'm like, I keep seeing like that name pop up. And then it's like, you know, people that I like really respect. And I'm like, holy shit, like what if I just write like the worst book and like the thoughts creep in? And I'm like, okay, we know what to do with
People are
this.
still going to buy it.
Yeah. And it's like, I know what to do with this. The magic you seek is in the work you're avoiding. And I am working on this. So the book is focused on this modern world that just prioritizes convenience and just numbing ourselves out to our feelings. What to do with it, how to do with it, and just kind of everything in between of what does it look like to have a regulated nervous system and what are tools. Like, I'm not a why guy, I'm a how guy. So that's what the focus of the book is on.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think, you know, as you were just saying, like people are still going to buy it if it's got your name on it. And I think that you have followed your purpose, and it's not easy to follow your purpose. And sometimes that means fitting out, not in. And that's definitely a harder place to be in. But everything that you're doing, it's working. You know, you're growing, you're evolving, and you're being true to yourself. And I think that that's the most important thing as humans that we can do is just be true to us. And sometimes that does mean walking away from people that aren't aligned with us. And sometimes that means doing the hard thing, or sometimes that even means with our kids, going to get them the thing that you don't really want them to have. With my child, he loves junk food. He loves it. And, you know, sometimes that means balance and just enjoying life as well. And thank you, Chris. I mean, I think that you're so wonderful. I think that everything that you do is just amazing. It comes from such a heart space, and you can really feel that. And even today's conversation, I mean, that's why it's Raw with Jay, because we are vulnerable here. We are raw. We say the things that nobody else wants to say. We talk about the things that no one else wants to talk about, to normalize them and to help humans understand that we're all on a journey. No one's perfect. We all make mistakes. We all say silly things sometimes, and sometimes that could be that one element where somebody will say something and you will judge them on that moment for the rest of their life. Like, it's a moment. Let's just understand that that is a moment in somebody's life, that we go through different versions of ourselves. I'm not the same person as I was last week, never mind 10 years ago. So I think that as humans, we really need to acknowledge each other and love each other with compassion and empathy and with boundaries. And I think that that's been stitched on my forehead for the last however long in my life, is that we need boundaries. They're so important. And if somebody's not making you feel good, it's okay to step away. Mm-hmm. And if you can be vulnerable with that person, like, and you know, that's just where we need to come from. My story from the start is that we hold so much anxiety if we're not doing and living authentically. And I think that that's what we want to take from this, is that, you know, we need to really live authentically as a human being and follow our path and our journey. And Chris, you've done that. You know, it's amazing. And to think that that started from your dad, part of that started from your dad and his experience, and, you know, sending so much love to him and your family, because I know that it wasn't easy and it's probably never going to be easy. But we're so grateful to have you on Raw with Jay and to share your story. And there are so many nuggets here, so many nuggets of wisdom that you have shared, and you've been so vulnerable and honest with your stories and your journey with your daughter and your partner and your family. And so we're just grateful for you and appreciate you and everything that you do, not just on social media, but if you ever have those doubts, just remember that people do see and hear and value you, and you have such a beautiful place in this world.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to me.
So yeah, how can we find you? So tell us a little bit more. I know you have a coaching program, so tell us a little bit more about how people can find you, when your book's coming out, etc.
Yeah, the book is expected to come out this fall in 2026 or early in 2027. And everywhere else is Dr. Chris Lee. Those are my handles. Those are my websites. And yes, I do have coaching programs. I have a leadership development program, which is for my business owners to make sure that they're not constantly in the cycle of burnout and chaos management. And then I have a group on Thursdays called Wired for Worthy, where we talk about self-regulation and self-expression. So if anybody's ever interested in joining one of those, I'm one message away from having that talk.
Beautiful. And is there any other self-regulation tips that you can leave people with?
For me, one of the biggest things has been recognizing just my innate values. And my innate values, when I express them, intentionally express them, because they don't just innately come out at all times. One of them is connection, and the other one is just playfulness. So when I am alone and when I am serious, I'm just not the best version of me. And it's a version of me that I still accept because that version still holds utility. But knowing that there's a time and place where I do want to express myself has just made life so much easier for me. So that if I ever do get stuck, I always ask that question. I'm like, okay, am I connecting with people, or am I connecting with myself, or am I abandoning myself, or am I taking this too seriously? And it helps me frame ideas and intentions and actions in a way that I don't really feel stuck a ton of the time. I feel, but it's not stuck.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I think it is like the feeling aspect of everything. It's like the connection, growth, and belonging is what we need as humans to connect to each other. And it's the piece of the puzzle that we're missing the most because we're so addicted to this. And I am too.
Yeah.
You've helped me today, especially like get off your phone.
Yeah, it's such a real thing, hence the book. So when it comes out, I'll make sure I send you a copy.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for being on Raw with Jay, Dr. Chris Lee, and we're just so appreciative and grateful for you.
Thanks so much. We'll see you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. If you're a parent, carer, or somebody walking alongside children in this wild world, come visit us at Happy Souls Kids, a platform we created to give kids the tools that we never had and offer parents the support that we've so often had to figure out alone. Can you imagine kids had the tools that we now have as adults? That's the work that we do. Until next time, keep showing up, keep feeling deeply, and keep finding your way home to yourself. Love, light, and gratitude, Jay.